Property tax season is here, and if you've already opened your bill, you might have felt a little sticker shock. Unlike your income taxes that quietly come out of your paycheck, this one hits all at once, and it's usually the biggest single check most homeowners write all year. But here's what really surprises people. Your neighbor down the street might be paying a fraction of what you pay for the same city services. Why? In this episode, we'll unpack the laws that make that possible, walk through real Calimesa tax bills, and explain exactly where your money goes and why some homeowners pay so much less.
Welcome to the Calimesa Insider Podcast, the official podcast of the City of Calimesa. Join City Manager Will Kolbow as he takes you behind the scenes of city projects, community stories, and the future of our hometown. Stay informed, stay connected. This is the Calimesa Insider Podcast.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Calimesa Insider Podcast. Today on the program, we'll talk about a formal milestone on a long and arduous project, the latest on our bond lawsuit saga, and we're taking a deep dive into a subject that is as confusing as it is frustrating, your property tax bill. This Monday, November 17th, the Calimesa City Council will hold its regular meeting at 6 p.m. at the Norton Young Love Senior Center, and there are two items of note I'd like to preview. First, under public hearings, the council will consider ordinance number 418, a proposed amendment to Calimesa's inclusionary housing ordinance. Right now, large housing projects in Calimesa must set aside 5% of their units for low-income households, defined as those earning 80% or less of area median income. Developers can already meet that requirement by building units on site, off-site, or by dedicating land. This requirement has been around since 2011 when the city first adopted the inclusionary housing ordinance. The new amendment would add a fourth option, paying an in lieu fee to the city. The funds would go into a dedicated affordable housing account used to partner with nonprofit or private affordable housing builders. The proposed fee is $3.40 per square foot of finished living area, roughly $8,150 for a typical 2,400 square foot home, and would help Calimesa leverage state and federal affordable housing programs. Next, under business items, the council will take action to officially close out the construction of the County Line Road Transportation Corridor Improvement Project. Now, for most residents, this project has been a long and often painful experience. What began as a joint effort with the City of Yucaipa to modernize County Line Road turned into years of construction delays, detours, and disruptions. Much of that stemmed from factors outside the city's control, which we have explained in detail in episode 47 back in May. After more than 400 working days and multiple remobilizations, the project is now complete. This week's action doesn't celebrate the work so much as it formally closes the contract and allows the city to release the final retention payment to the contractor, Roadway Engineering and Construction. The pavement work currently being done is through Manager, Yucaipa's contractor for their pavement management program. It was more cost-effective to do it through the Manager contract rather than Roadway, which is why we are closing the Roadway contract now. So while the new road layout and roundabouts are now fully open, the city recognizes that the process has been frustrating for many who rely on County Line Road every day. This item is an administrative step, not a ribbon cutting, but it does mark the point where we can finally shift focus from construction to maintenance, safety monitoring, and restoring normal traffic flow through the corridor. I also wanted to provide an update on the Oak Valley Town Center bond lawsuit. A listener asked about this, and the last time we covered it was in episode 56 back on September 6th. Again, I can't comment on our legal strategy, but I can share what is already in the public record. To recap, Everest, the surety company on the Oak Valley Town Center performance bonds, failed to perform on the bonds after the developer had defaulted on their obligation, so we filed lawsuit in federal court. Subsequently, Everest had filed a counterclaim against the city. That counterclaim was dismissed with prejudice, which means it cannot be refiled, though Everest can appeal, as I had stated they probably would, and they are doing so. The city has filed for what is called a motion for summary judgment in our lawsuit against Everest. That type of motion asks the judge to decide the case without a full trial because the key facts aren't in dispute. Even if you accept the other side's facts as true, the law would still entitle the city to win. A hearing on the motion had been set for October 2nd, and the full trial was expected to begin on November 3rd. If the judge granted the motion for summary judgment, the trial wouldn't be necessary. What the city ultimately is seeking is straightforward. Either Everest must step in and finish the public improvements for the town center, or they must pay the penal sum, essentially the value of the bonds. Based on the amount of remaining work, it is more likely Everest would elect to pay the penal sum. A full win for the city would be worth over $19.8 million, plus recovery of our legal costs. So there is a lot at stake. Now for the latest developments. On September 26th, the federal district court issued an order that changes the timeline of the case. The judge certified what's called an interlocutory appeal. And that means the judge agreed that one specific legal issue raised by Everest should go up to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals now rather than waiting until after trial. An interlocutory appeal is basically a mid-case appeal. It's rare, and courts only allow it when there's a significant legal question that could materially affect how the rest of the case should proceed. In this instance, the issue involves which statute of limitations applies to certain claims Everest tried to raise. The Ninth Circuit will now have to sort that out. Now, because of that appeal, the district court has stayed the entire case. That means everything, our motion for summary judgment, the hearing date, the trial, is paused until the Ninth Circuit makes its decision. The order is clear that continuing with the case while the appeal is pending could waste resources or result in two separate trials, depending on how the appellate court rules. So the bottom line is that the case is temporarily on hold. Nothing will move forward until the interlocutory appeal is resolved. That process can take time, but once the Ninth Circuit rules, the case will resume in district court. For those interested, the full order is a public document and describes the court's reasoning in detail. Okay, so today we're taking a deep dive into something every homeowner has received by now, your annual property tax bill. The first installment is due December 10th, and the second installment is due April 10th. Some of you pay this directly, while others have the taxes wrapped up into your mortgage through what's called an impound account. And that means your lender collects an extra amount with your mortgage payment, holds it in escrow, and pays the bill on your behalf. Even if that's the case, you still receive a copy of the bill and you still see the numbers. And those numbers can vary significantly from home to home, even among neighbors living on the very same street. Because the property tax is the city's single largest source of revenue, I want to walk through what all the line items on your bill mean, why the total amount differs so much from property to property, and what explains the sometimes huge differences between older neighborhoods and newer subdivisions. To understand why property tax bills look the way they do, we need to revisit two major laws, Proposition 13 from 1978 and the Mello-Roos Community Facilities Act of 1982. We covered this in episode 40 back in January, but it is essential to understanding today's examples. So before Prop 13, your property taxes were based on the current market value of your home, and each local government set its own tax rate. So if your home value rose quickly, 10% or 20% in a year, your tax bill could rise just as fast if local agencies didn't adjust their tax rates. For many families, especially retirees on fixed incomes, that system was unpredictable and often unaffordable. Proposition 13 changed everything. So under Prop 13, the assessed value of your home is set at the time you purchase it, and from that point forward, it can go up by no more than 2% per year, no matter what the market is doing, or even inflation for that matter. Unless you sell the home or make substantial improvements, your assessed value remains tied to that original acquisition year. Prop 13 also capped the general property tax rate at 1% of your assessed value. This is often what is called the ad valorem tax, the 1% calculation that appears on every property tax bill. But Prop 13 also removed the ability for each local agency to set its own rate. That responsibility fell to the legislature, which adopted Assembly Bill 8 in 1979. AB 8 created the formula that determines how that 1% is divided among the county, the city, school districts, the water districts, community college districts, and many other agencies in each tax rate area. We'll look at those distributions when we review the examples. The second key law is the Mello-Roos Act of 1982. After Prop 13 passed, cities, counties, and school districts found themselves with far less revenue, but they still needed to build the infrastructure and provide the services required to support new development. Mello-Roos allows a city or special district to form what's called a Community Facilities District, or CFD, which can levy special taxes to pay for infrastructure and ongoing services. Unlike the 1% tax, these special taxes are not based on assessed value. They follow a formula adopted when the CFD is created. And importantly, CFDs are almost always formed before the development is built, usually by the original developer, to reimburse themselves for the cost of roads, utilities, drainage, fire facilities, and other improvements, effectively passing on the cost of those improvements to whom will benefit from them. CFD service taxes are often required as a condition of approval so that new development pays for the additional police, fire, and parks and other services they need or needs that it generates, because the 1% tax under Prop 13 usually cannot cover the full cost of those services. When you put these two systems together, Prop 13 assessments and Mello-Roos CFDs, you get the large differences we see between older homes and newer ones. Older homes often have very low assessed values, while newer homes often include CFDs, special taxes layered on top. So with that context, let's walk through how to read a property tax bill and then look at several real examples. If you're watching the video version, you will see a sample Riverside County bill on the screen. If you're listening to the audio-only version, I'll describe the sections in enough detail that you can follow along without visuals. So let's zoom in a bit so we can see the areas we want to focus on. The item labeled as number 9 on the bill is the tax rate area. This determines which agencies receive portions of your 1% general levy and what additional assessments apply in your area. You could be in a different tax rate area than even the person across the street. In fact, Calimesa alone has 67 different tax rate areas, all beginning with 022, which is Calimesa's code. Number 12 is the general tax levy. This is the ad valorem tax, the 1% rate under Prop 13. Your tax rate area determines how that 1% is divided. As we look at actual examples, I will show you the breakdown of who receives what portion of that 1%. Number 13 includes all the voter-approved debt service charges and special assessments. These may include community college bonds, K-12 school bonds, water agency bonds, hospital district bonds, and CFDs. In a moment, I will also mention the year those bonds were approved by voters, because that is an important context. These charges come from voter-approved measures, not from the city of Calimesa. Numbers 14 through 17 show the assessed and taxable values of the land and structures. Again, assessed value is not market value because of Prop 13. If you see a homeowner's exemption or veteran's exemption listed here, that's where it appears. If you think you qualify for one of these exemptions and don't see it, contact the county assessor's office at the number at the top of your bill. The net taxable value shown here is what is used for all percentage-based portions of the bill, including the 1% general levy and some bond charges. Number 18 is the tax rate per $100 of value. This includes the 1% plus any percentage-based assessments. Number 19 is the total dollar amount of those taxes. It's simply number 18 multiplied by the net taxable value. Number 20 is the total of all special assessments that are not based on land values. So these include CFD special taxes, landscape and lighting assessments, clean water fees, and other district charges. And number 21 is the total amount due. That's the number most people look at first. Now, let's look at several real-world examples, actual bills of Calimesa residents. So even though this is publicly available information, I have redacted identifying information out of an abundance of caution. These are the online versions of the bill, so they won't look like the sample bill we just looked at, but it contains the same information. The first example is an older home that was built and occupied since before Proposition 13 with no ownership changes for many decades. The assessed value is about $32,000, but with the homeowner's exemption, the net taxable value is only about $25,000, while the estimated market value from Zillow is about $344,000. This home is located in tax rate area 022-028. This tax rate area includes several voter-approved bond measures. For example, the San Bernardino Valley Community College District, which includes Crafton Hills College and Yucaipa, has bonds approved by voters in 2002, 2008, and 2018. The San Bernardino Pass Water Agency's debt service relates to the State Water Project, and those obligations date back to before Proposition 13, since the agency is a state water contractor. There's also a flood control, clean water, and stormwater assessment, which goes to the County Flood Control District, and that helps fund federally and state-mandated stormwater programs. LLMD 91-1 also appears here. This is the city's landscape and lighting maintenance district formed in 1991. When Proposition 218 passed in 1996, the district structure was revised into Zone A and Zone B. Zone A covers citywide landscaping, streetlights, and traffic signals and does not include a cost of living adjustment. So it is still the $21.50 per parcel rate it was in 1991. Zone B includes all newer developments annexed into the district after 1996. Each annexation within Zone B, which is B1 through B7C, was approved by the affected property owners and funds the operation, maintenance, and servicing of landscape, streetlights, traffic signals, and in some cases, open space maintenance that directly benefits those specific developments. For example, Annexation B5 includes open space maintenance for a handful of tracts with responsibility shared between the city and the HOA. However, the vast majority of parcels, including all the examples we will look at today, are in Area A. The total revenue collected by LLMD 91-1 citywide does not come close to covering the costs it was intended to cover, so the general fund must make up the difference in those costs. The effective rate based on taxable value, which is the total taxes of $334.62, divided by the taxable value of $25,228, equates to 1.326%. The effective tax rate based on market value of $334,000, on the other hand, is only 0.097% because of the suppressed assessed value under Proposition 13. The line labeled general purpose is the general tax levy, which for this homeowner is $252.28, or 1% of the assessed value. When we look at the distribution of that general levy in this tax rate area, which is shown in the pie chart on screen, the largest portion, about 37%, goes to Yucaipa Calimesa Joint Unified School District. The city of Calimesa receives its typical 8.8% for general services and another 19.3% for fire services. Other agencies receiving a share include Riverside County Flood, the San Bernardino Pass Water Agency, the Yucaipa Valley Water District, which in this particular area provides sewer service only, the county library, the regional parks district, and even a cemetery district. For the city's combined rates totaling 28.1%, this homeowner is paying roughly $71 per year for city services. The second example is located a few blocks from the first example. It's a home built in 2004 and last sold at the end of 2020 for $555,000. Its current next taxable value today is about $594,000, and Zillow estimates that its current value at about $677,000. This is in tax rate area 022-031. Much of this bill's components are similar to the first example, except this one also includes a CFD charge of $270 for the Yucaipa Calimesa Joint Unified School District. This is a school district CFD and does not have anything to do with the city maintaining common areas. A resident in the same area once came to a council meeting and believed this CFD was for city maintenance, which is incorrect. The debt service taxes have the same tax rates as the first example, but produce far higher dollar amounts because the assessed value is much higher. Effective rates here are 1.275% based on taxable value and 1.118% based on market. The general purpose pie chart for this area is similar to example 1, but in this case, the taxpayer pays more than $1,600 per year for city services, the same services for which the first homeowner paid about $71. The third example is the next door neighbor of example 2 and is in the same tax rate area. This home was sold in 2014 for $274,000. The net taxable value is now about $329,000, and the estimated market value is about $562,000. Because of the lower assessed value, the total taxes are lower as well, so this homeowner pays about $900 for city services. The effective rate based on taxable value is 1.315% and 0.769% based on market value. The fourth example is in Singleton Heights, a newer subdivision built in 2014 and last sold in 2019 for $375,000. The net taxable value is about $418,000, and the Zillow estimate is about $545,000. This home is in tax rate area 022-007. Debt service includes the San Gregorio Pass Water Agency's state water project share, the same as the first three examples, as well as bonds for the San Jacinto Community College District approved by voters in 2014 and Beaumont Unified School District bonds approved in 1998 and 2008. Yes, Singleton Heights is within Beaumont Unified School District, not Yucaipa Calimesa, and San Jacinto Community College District, not San Bernardino Valley. The special assessments in this area include the LLMD and clean water fees as before, but also 2 CFDs. The first is CFD 1, formed in 2006 for police, fire, paramedic, and park maintenance services attributable to new development. Since its formation, new developments such as JP Ranch, Singleton Heights, Summerwind Trails, and others have been annexed into CFD 1. The second is CFD 2012-1, specific to Singleton Heights. Within this CFD, Special Tax A, listed as CFD 2012-1 Facilities IA1 on the bill, pays for the debt service on bonds which were issued for facilities such as city infrastructure, street and traffic improvements, drainage, library, fire, law enforcement, and park facilities. Special Tax A will fall off the bill once the bonds are paid off. And yes, that actually does happen, even though people often scoffed at that idea. Special Tax B, listed as 2012-1 Services, funds the maintenance of irrigated and non-irrigated open space, landscape slopes, drainage areas, and street lighting specifically within the Singleton Heights tract. And it's important to emphasize, CFD 2012-1 service dollars can only be spent inside Singleton Heights. They do not fund general citywide maintenance or citywide services. The effective tax rate here, the effective tax rates here are 1.899% based on taxable value and 1.457% based on market value. The general purpose distribution has some differences here, as the school district funding, the largest portion, goes to Beaumont Unified School District, and we see San Jacinto College District replaces San Bernardino Valley. Additionally, Yucaipa Valley Water District has 2 lines. Their normal one that was included in the first 3 examples, but also Improvement Area Number 1. Improvement Area 1 is the former Calimesa Water District, which, YVWT took over in 1971. The 5th example is located in Phase 1 of Summerwind Trails, our newest subdivision. It was built in 2020, and the current owners are the original buyers. They paid $464,000 for the property, and the net taxable value now is just under $495,000. And Zillow estimates the current market value at about $619,000. This one is located in tax rate area 022-067. This area has similar debt service charges as Singleton Heights, including the San Jacinto Community College District bond from 2014 and the Beaumont Unified School District bonds from 1998 and 2008. It also has the San Gregorio Pass Memorial Healthcare District bond from 2006 and the Healthcare District's Measure H parcel tax renewed by voters in 2021 under special assessments. Other special assessments include LLMD 91-1, clean water fees, CFD 1, and Assessment District 14-01 through the statewide Community Infrastructure Program, which funded some of the water and sewer infrastructure for the development. The most significant items here are CFD 2018-1 for Summerwind Trails. This CFD includes Special Tax A, listed as CFD 2018-1 Facilities IA1, which finances public facilities such as city infrastructure, drainage, library facilities, law enforcement facilities, government facilities, and multiple species habitat conservation plan obligations. Special Tax A will fall off the bill once the bonds are repaid. And Special Tax B, listed as CFD 2018-1 services, funds the maintenance of park landscaping, lighting, streets, sidewalks, streetscape areas, and storm drains specifically within Summerwind. And again, it is worth emphasizing, CFD 2018-1 service dollars can only be spent within the Summerwind Trails area. They do not fund general city services outside that development. You will note that the CFD tax for services is lower here than it is in Singleton Heights. One reason is the difference is that Summerwind has an HOA while Singleton Heights does not. The effective tax rates for this property are 1.913% based on assessed value and 1.528% based on market value. The general purpose tax is distributed a bit differently, as we now added a distribution to the San Gregorio Healthcare District of 1.7%, which slightly lowers all other distributions. Some agencies, like the city, get more than one distribution. So in total, 12 different governmental agencies get a piece of the property tax pie in this tax rate area. So when we look at the summary chart now on the screen, there's a lot going on. The blue bar with diagonal stripes is the effective tax rate as a percentage of taxable value, and the orange bar with diagonal stripes is the effective rate as a percentage of market value. Both of those bars are scaled to the left axis. The stacked bar in the center of each example is scaled to the right axis and shows the total taxes by type, with a legend explaining each color at the bottom. You can see that the effective tax rate as a percentage of assessed value is relatively consistent across all 5 examples, ranging from about 1.275% to about 1.913%. Because of how assessed values are set, however, you do get some oddities. For example, even though example 2 pays a higher tax bill than example 3 actually has a higher effective tax rate by assessed value, and example 1, despite having a much lower tax bill, has a higher effective assessed value rate than both of them. But when you look at the effective tax rate as a percentage of market value, the disparity becomes dramatic, ranging from 0.097% for the longtime homeowner to 1.528% for the newest development. The general purpose tax amount, shown in the center bar of each example in dark green, also shows major variation. As you will recall, the homeowner in example 1 paid about $71 for city services, while the homeowner in example 2 paid more than $1,600, almost 23 times more for the same services. That difference is driven entirely by differences in assessed value. And when you add in the CFDs to the mix, the total bill for example 5 is 28 times higher than example 1. And this brings us back to the initial explanation of CFDs. Newer developments rely heavily on CFD financing because Prop 13 suppresses assessed value growth. CFDs ensure that new development contributes the additional revenue needed to support the police, fire, parks, and infrastructure that serve those communities. Older homes and older neighborhoods don't have these CFD layers because they were built before the Mello-Roos Act existed or before service CFDs were commonly required. This is why when you look up and down the state, older communities with little growth are having a much harder time financially. So to summarize the key takeaways as you review your property tax bill, first, remember that your assessed value is not your market value. Prop 13's 2% cap is the reason for that. Second, the 1% general tax levy is divided among many agencies according to the tax rate area you live in. Third, many of the line items, college bonds, school bonds, water agency bonds, hospital district bonds, come from voter-approved measures. Fourth, CFD facilities taxes do eventually fall off the bill once the bonds are paid. Lastly, development-specific CFD services taxes stay within the boundaries of the development they serve. They do not fund citywide services. Understanding these elements will help you read your bill more easily, understand the differences between older and newer neighborhoods, and know exactly where your tax dollars are going. If you have any questions about your own bill or you want help interpreting a specific line item, feel free to send a redacted copy, and I'll walk through it in a future episode. And with that, that will do it for this episode of the podcast. Don't forget, our city council is meeting this Monday, November 17th at 6 p.m. at the Norton England Senior Center. You can attend live and in person or watch on the city's YouTube page at calimesa.gov/YouTube. Visit calimesa.gov/podcast to follow and subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, or subscribe via your favorite podcast app like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many others. Till next time, I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving with family and friends, and I will talk to you again in a few weeks. Take care.